No, no, no. Stop the random beatboxing, self-beatboxing. Stop it. Just shut it down. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 9 of Casting for Two with your host, Chris. Why did I suddenly stop my self-beatboxing? Well, I actually have a pretty good, reason. Casting for Two is kind of a ever-evolving show. And I recently had a chance to sit down with a very talented musician. And his name is Christoffer Franzen. That's his name, but his AKA, his alias, is Lights in Motion, which is an awesome band, and it's just him. He plays every instrument himself, and it really is some of the most beautifully cinematic music I've ever heard. And I actually got him on my show. I was so excited to get him on. I've just been listening to him for a while now, and his music, really helps me when I'm writing. So just overall, great interview. I'm glad he made time for me. He's in the middle of writing his first album is Reanimation, which is out now. His second album comes out October 15th. It's called Save Your Heart. He's in the middle of making that right now, so just that he could take time out of his schedule, I was very happy for. And if you guys wanted to check him out, you can go to Deep Elm Digital. That's Deep, D-E-E-P, Elm, E-L-M, digital.com, and check his music out. Or, of course, you can go to iTunes and Amazon Music to get all, his music. But go ahead, check it out. On what I'm going to do for this episode, I'm actually going to sprinkle in some of his music throughout the episode, so it just kind of a little bit over there. But you know what? I'm done talking, so let's just cue the music, okay? Cue it. Hey, Christoph. First of all, I just wanted to thank you for, finding the time for this interview.
Hey, man, no problem. I'm glad we found the time to do this.
So, first off, I just wanted to ask, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and kind of what led you down the path to being a musician.
I guess I've always been interested in music in different ways. When I was a kid, I always got obsessed with bands and their music, but I didn't start to play an instrument until I was 16, when I got my first guitar. But the year before, I was constantly over at my neighbor's house because they had a guitar, and so I used to steal that and bring it into my room, and I would sit for hours just tinkering on like you do.
Yeah.
And then it sort of evolved more towards production after I turned 20, I think.
And what about your parents? Do they play any instruments?
My family isn't very musical at all, so it wasn't like I grew up listening to records all the time. So they are kind of wondering where I got my passion from.
And what was the first instrument you learned how to play?
So after I got my first guitar at 16, at Christmas, it was an acoustic guitar. I started playing for like 5 hours every day, just practicing and practicing and practicing. And at first, you're just trying to learn your instrument, and then after a few years, you start to find your own voicing and your own style of playing, I think. And then I started to gravitate towards other instruments when I was older. I learned to play bass and drums and piano. But really, when I started Lights in Motion, my only real instrument was the guitar. So everything else I just sort of picked up throughout the course of making Reanimation, the first album. whatever stuff I thought I needed to have in my songs, I would figure out what it was, and then I would try to learn to play it. And so even though I might not always know what I'm playing on the piano, I can hear when it resonates or harmonizes with the other stuff. And so I think that music theory is not something that's crucial in order to compose or create music.
What about some of your influences?
My musical influences?
Yeah.
I guess they vary throughout the years, as they tend to do, but when I grew up, I listened to a lot of heavy music, like Metallica and In Flames and stuff like that, and I would learn to play their songs on my acoustic guitar because I couldn't afford an electric one. But later on, I started to drift more towards melodic music and more like U2 were huge for me, and Coldplay as well. And then I found Explosions in the Sky, and I thought that someone had like opened up my brain and put all the things I love about music into a band and molded it to fit my personal view of what music could be. So that was kind of mind-blowing for me. But yeah, nowadays I tend to choose melody over speed, or I don't know, high production value as well. I'm very interested in the details of a record, like all the nerdy little sonic fairy dust.
Okay. What was the first song that you learned how to play that you can think of?
The first song I learned to play on the guitar, I think that was the Limp Bizkit cover of Behind Blue Eyes, because I remember practicing it in my bedroom when I was 15, and I'm sure it sounded horrible, but I think that was the one. And then the second one was Red Hot Chili Peppers, All Around the World. I don't know why I remember that, but I do for some reason.
No, I totally remember a time around middle school, and probably some in high school, when I too was limping with the biscuit. What are some of your what's your process when you're in the studio writing a song?
My process when I'm writing is, I guess it's not weird, but it's not usual either, because I don't really draw a line between composing and recording, because everything I do is improvised. So I usually just set up my gear and take out my guitar and my synths and pianos and whatever it is, and then I start to play around. And the entire process is, I've described it sort of like you force it out. Like there's this myth for songwriters and musicians that you need to have this divine inspiration in order to create, and I've never really bought into that whole thing. I think that it's 80% hard work and 20% inspiration, because if you don't put in the hours, chances are that those good ideas never will show, because I mean, you need to spend time to harvest your inspiration. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it anyway. Yeah. And so I'm sure there are a lot of great songs that haven't been written because people tend to shy away from just hammering it out hour after hour, even when it's not really happening. But that's what I do. And so the entire Reanimation record is pretty much improvised. The guitar lines, it's not like I've thought about it for weeks and tweaked and stuff like that. It's more like, okay, I need a guitar line or a top line or a top melody. What could I do? And then I either hum something or I just play around on the guitar, and when I find something I like, I usually tend to hit record and just record it straight away. And the thing is that when you do everything yourself, that I do, or like I do, I'm sorry, you sort of get tired of your own creations. So when you get that feeling of excitement when you're working, I tend to try to do as much as possible during the time before the music wears off on you. Like, if you hear something 1 million times, it's not going to sound as exciting as it did at first, and then it's kind of hard to keep your eye on the prize or know what's best for the song.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I tend to work fast, and I tend to work live.
And you mentioned Reanimation, which I absolutely love the album. I find that whenever I'm trying to write a script or a short film or anything like that, I just pop in the CD or the digital CD and I just listen to it. But the tracks, since you don't have any lyrics, how do you come up with names for your songs?
The names of the tracks that varies greatly. Sometimes I have a name or a title in my head, and I can't seem to get it out, and so then I try to write for that track or for that meaning, because oftentimes there's like a cinematic story behind it that I think of before I start writing to help me narrow it down or to push me in the right direction. Other times you just end up with something appropriate for the track if the music comes first. But that varies. But oftentimes it has meaning, like sometimes it could be a hint of what's in the song, like the march. The title came out of the whole thing where I was stomping my feet in the ground in the studio during that intro. So I'm not really sure. That varies, I guess.
And you were going to release an EP, but in the last second, you decided to make it a full album. What was your decision on that?
Yeah, that's quite a shock to release 2 full albums in 1 year. But the story is that when I finished Reanimation, I didn't really take a break. I just kept on working like a madman in the studio. And then Deep Elm had their 200th album release coming up, and they asked me if I wanted to do something. And I said, sure, I can do an EP or something along those lines. And I started working, and things just kept coming, and so I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And this idea crystallized in my head, what I wanted to do with this new material. But then there came a point where I was like 6 songs in, and that's already like too long for an EP but short of an album. So I just told my label that, you know what, I'm gonna go for a full length here. And what do you say? And they said, sure, that would be great. So that's what we're doing right now. In the final weeks of composing and mixing, and like it's all a blur. I'm just working constantly. I don't even have a social life right now. I'm just locked in the studio.
Wow. What can you tell us about this new album? What was your inspiration for it?
Yeah, so the album is called Save Your Heart, and the inspiration was clear from the start. I wanted to push the sound upwards, like if to the stratosphere or like higher up in the air towards space in terms of the sonic identity of the tracks. So there's more synth use, and there's also a lot more vocals from me. Not necessarily words, but like vocal harmonies and stuff like that, vocal melodies. So I've been playing around with that a lot, which is funny. Or not funny, but I think it's cool. Like every voice is different, so I thought, why not use mine to make something that no one else can do, hopefully.
Yeah.
I've also spent my fair share of hours just beating up the production, the depth of the production. There's a lot of layers, and there's a lot of like tiny details and twerks and sonic fare, as I mentioned before. I could spend like 2 months on a song just going over it with a magnifying glass from start to finish, just adding small details here and there. Because I think that's what really sets my mark on the songs, the production details. And I found that very interesting. And I've listened to a lot of Brian Eno stuff, and he did the last Coldplay record, and during that they have a live DVD, and between songs each of the band members they speak above some weird ambient mixes of their music, and I thought that they sounded great, and so I wanted to try something like that with a lot of shine and polish and stuff like that. So I've been playing around quite a lot with that.
Yeah, I actually have the Coldplay live CD. It's not a bad one. Just go check it out. But you mentioned that you're pretty much in the studio. When you, I mean, what do you like to do outside of it?
When I'm not in the studio, I don't even know what that means anymore because I've been locked up in here for so long, like pretty much since a year or
Wow.
2 years before Reanimation came out. I've been living here, so I work 7 days a week, oftentimes through the night, and so I don't know. It's hard work, but then I don't really feel like I have a choice. Like I tend to come here even though I might be super tired, haven't slept at all. I guess that's what passion does to you. It overrides your brain.
Yeah.
So, but I don't. As soon as I'm done with this album, I think I'm gonna have to take at least a few days off to just relax and spend time with friends. But I do like going to the movies and stuff like that. But honestly, it's been music that I live and breathe for these past years.
And I've just kind of always wondered how a musician prefers their music. Like, do you download? Do you buy CDs? Like, how do you prefer to get your music?
I'm actually a download kind of guy when it comes to music because I'm always on the move. So I wish I could sit at home listening to LPs more, but I'm always on the move, either from the studio to the studio or sitting around here. So I tend to have it all on my phone with headphones. And that's just the way the music business looks right now, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I recently got into vinyl maybe about a couple of years ago now, and so I mean, if I'm gonna buy a CD, that's pretty much what I'm gonna get it on. And the first thing I did was buy all the Foo Fighters albums, but there's something about actually buying it that makes you feel a little bit. I don't know. It makes it feel a little bit special.
Yeah, vinyl is really coming back. I think that's a good thing. You get sort of like a sense of worth when you hold an LP of vinyl. And I do love Foo Fighters, so good for you there.
Yeah, they were the first band I ever saw, so I kind of have an emotional tie to them and I just really like them. But I was very happy to hear that Reanimation was coming out on vinyl. I know I already pre-ordered that sucker.
Yeah, we had to push it back a bit because the thing around Save Your Heart and the album just became too much to deal with, so we had to push that, and I think comes out in November now, if I'm not mistaken. So that's gonna be cool. There's been a lot of interest from fans to get a vinyl version, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I really can't wait for your newest album. Hopefully it'll be on vinyl, Save Your Heart. But unfortunately, the time has come where we have to just stop talking. I could probably talk to you, forever. But did you have anything anything else you wanted to talk about or say or pitch? Get out there in the open.
Well, I guess I just want to thank everyone for listening, and I don't take this for granted, the fact that I have people listening to me, or to my music, I should say. And since music is what I do, or what I believe I'm intended to do, it's always a great honor and a humbling experience to have people interested in what you come up with. So just thank you, and keep listening and writing. I tend to respond to every single person who writes me, because once again, I think that's just an amazing thing that people gives you time. So you should do your best to honor that and to try to be as forward and responsive as you can.
Well, yeah, I know we've been playing this game of tag, but I'm really happy you responded back to me, and I'm really happy I was able to get you on the show. And again, I just wanted to thank you. But yeah, just try to take it easy, and hopefully we can talk again sometime. But yeah, take it easy, okay?
Thanks a lot, Chris. Hope to talk to you soon.
You too. Take it easy.
Ciao.
All right, bye-bye. The music that was featured in this episode in order was Home, Aerials, and The March. And you can find all those songs and more on the album Reanimation, which you can download off iTunes, Amazon, or even go to deepelmdigital.com and download those. You can find Lights in Motion on his Twitter page, at Lights in Motion, or even on Facebook. Just type in Lights in Motion and unfriend him. Just go do it.